T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and lift off.
Coach on Fire Radio.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this beautiful world, and a very, very warm welcome to my radio show, Let's Talk Relationships and Life. And it really is wonderful to have you with us today, and I'm so excited in a moment to introduce my guest. But I just wanted to take a minute to talk to you about what you can expect to learn and how you're going to feel really inspired by the shows which are aired every other Saturday. And that's Saturday. Time zones, that's 9 a.m. PST time. So my name is Louise Armstrong and I am a healer of hearts. And my huge passion and drive in life is really all about relationships. And this stems from my own personal transformation. And now I'm really motivated to take my own relationship business to a completely new level. I have a face-to-face business here in Dubai, and I'm actually picking the whole thing up and putting it online, which means I can reach many, many more people around the world. I truly believe that all of us crave to be emotionally loved, and that might be on a romantic level, personal, or through friendships. And if we can't make that connection, which we're so striving for, it's really because we are emotionally wounded ourselves. And so we need to look at ourselves first. And this is why self-love really is the first step in healing before we can make and look at creating any of those emotional connections with others. And you know, so many of us struggle with relationships, and perhaps right now you're going through a breakup, perhaps a divorce. Maybe your partner's had an affair, or you're struggling with your mother or your father, or perhaps your kids, or maybe your husband's left you, or a work colleague's really let you down. But so many of us really struggle in so many areas of our lives. And this is where you're going to find great value, as I'm going to be introducing to you amazing coaches, motivators, therapists, and public speakers to share with you their expertise and knowledge. And this is going to really help you in every aspect of your relationship, and that whether that's romantic, personal, friendship, or perhaps at a business level. You're going to learn really valuable tips and advice and strategies from these experts from all over the world. Because, you know, life really is all about relationships, and the better the connection, the better the quality of life. And now it's enough of me talking, because I'm really, really excited to introduce my guest today, who is talking about a fabulous, fabulous topic. Without further ado, let's welcome Caitlin Grace. And a very warm welcome, Caitlin.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be talking with you today and to share what I've got to share.
Yeah,
it's going to be good.
Fantastic. So Caitlin's going to be talking to us today about how to reconnect to your feminine self and reclaim your sexuality. And you know, why so many women have lost themselves. And I just can't wait to get into this, Caitlin. And just a little bit about Caitlin. She is the author of The Goddess Guide to Sex, Love and Life. She is a Yoni Egg Coach and a self-love coach. She's been married, divorced, and is now married to the love of her life for the past 25 years. And Caitlin has a huge mission here to help women better understand the importance of their pelvic floor and why it matters so much. Her own mother suffered a pelvic floor prolapse where Caitlin was a teenager. So she learnt the importance of Kegels. Is that Kegels or Kegels? Because it just shows
Kegels.
It's Kegels.
Yeah.
It just shows you my pure ignorance here. But nothing compares to Yoni eggs for toning your pelvic floor. So as a Yoni Egg coach, Caitlin helps women understand there is more to the Yoni Egg practice than just maintaining the pelvic floor. It is also a practice in tuning in and becoming more deeply connected to your body and mindful of the way that you really interact with yourself. So this probably affects every woman, Caitlin.
It really does, across all different age groups. It's not just... we tend to think of light bladder leakage and incontinence issues as being, like an old lady's issue, but it's actually not. It's across the broad range. I've got clients who are in their 30s who have had a prolapse while they've been giving birth or just after they've given birth, and that, of course, impacts on how they view themselves as a woman, how they can operate in the world as a mother, and, of course, it impacts them on their sexual relationships as well.
Yeah. But one of my best friends in the UK is a midwife, and she's always on about the pelvic floor. She does these exercises every day, and she says it's absolutely key. And she's very proud of herself when she goes for her smear test. She's always told she's got such a good pelvic floor.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, it's we should be teaching our kids about, like our teenage daughters, about the pelvic floor and how to look after it, so that when they go to have children, if they choose to, that they're already prepared.
Yes, and it's having that knowledge, isn't it? And it's quite a taboo subject, and so this is absolutely a fantastic message to get out there, because a lot of these subjects, I find a lot of the guests who come on my show, a lot of these topics are really taboo, and they become enshrouded with shame, and it is something that we just don't talk about. So the more we can get the message across that it is important and it is okay to talk about it, and it does affect lives, it really does. So let's just dive straight in, Caitlin, and how we get, can you just talk to us a little bit and how we get disconnected from ourselves?
Well, the big thing is, like you were saying about the shame and the taboo around our genitals for a start. A lot of women don't even connect with the name for their vagina or their genitals. They don't like the word vagina. They don't know that the genitals, really the correct name for all of the genitals is vulva. They don't know that. They give it some cutesy little name, like in my household when I was growing up, my mum taught us to call it our miffy. I don't know where, miffy, I don't know where that word came from, but that was the word that we used for it. And the thing is, if you can't name it, you can't fully take ownership of that body part. It's no different from your nose or your elbow or your knee. But if you're not taking ownership of that, then you're instantly disconnected from yourself from the waist down. So I have lots of women who refer to it just as down there.
Down there, okay. So the first thing really is to be actually just to say it and understand the name.
Exactly.
And to be, that is part of me. Yes, because you hear things like fluffy and, as you say, down there, private parts.
Lady garden.
Yep.
The JJ, the names for it are endless. And all of that does is it disconnects us from that very core of our being.
Do you know, I never thought of that before. Never thought of that.
Yeah, and it's also when you're teaching your children, if the kids don't have the name for those body parts, if heaven forbid they should be sexually abused, they can't. The stories don't hold up in court if they say he touched me on my miffy. Well, where's your miffy? Nobody else knows what that is. It's just your family name for your genitals. Right. But the court doesn't understand that. It has to be the correct name. So we're actually not empowering our children if we don't give them the correct names. So that's the first part of the disconnection.
Interesting, very interesting.
And then there's the disconnection when it comes to our periods and things like that. We talk about it being the curse, and it's part of us that we don't want to talk about, we don't want to acknowledge, we don't want to admit that it's even happening, and that's another taboo, another shame. And if you've got shame around any part of your body, then you are instantly cut off from it. You're not tuned into it, you're not paying attention to it, you're not knowing all the benefits that it can give you.
God, that really takes me back. I went to boarding school from the age of 11, and that word, the curse, that was that. I mean, it just sounds so horrific now, and that's what we called it. That's what my mother called it, and it was, you've got to hide all your, I had those great big sanitary towels. They've all got to be hidden.
Yes.
You're not supposed to, nobody's supposed to know what you're doing. And I was in a girls' boarding school, for heaven's sake. So, I couldn't have been surrounded by more people having the same, my goodness me.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the shame. It's shrouded in shame. And I went to an all-girls high school, and the same thing. Nobody talked about periods. Nobody talked about how to dispose of the sanitary pads or the towels. They didn't have those little sanitary disposal units like they did now. And it was the shame and embarrassment about a natural bodily function that we should be openly talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you put it in this way, it's quite astounding, really, that it's gone on in this way for so long.
Yes, and that we're still in the 21st century. A lot of women still don't have access to sanitary products. In third world countries, they're still using rags and things like that. It's horrific, and we don't realise how blessed we are to be able to have access to that in the Western world. Yes. And yet we are still shamed about using those products or needing to use those products, and at the same time we mourn the loss when our periods actually stop. Yes. And we feel like we are now no longer a woman. I've been talking to women about menopause lately. And the fear around menopause, I'm going to be old, I will lose my femininity. Well, no, you're still female, therefore you're still feminine, regardless of whether you're bleeding or not. It's there's a big disconnection from our body.
I can really see that. Wow, that's a big eye opener. Thank you, Caitlin, for that. So, now this is very interesting. I want to ask you something about this. We want to be able to nourish our pelvic floor, and nourishment. One of the ways to nourish our bodies is what we eat. So,
yes,
what can we actually eat? I had no idea. Are there specific foods that actually nourish that part of our body? Yes, there are. Oh, please tell.
There's things like collagen. Collagen, we know, plumps up our skin, helps with wrinkles, makes our joints all nice and limber. Well, it's also really good for the connective tissue that is the pelvic floor. So collagen is one of those things. How do you get collagen into your body? You start making things like bone broth. I've got a big broth. Okay. I've got bone broth on the stove right now. And just having 1 or 2 glasses of cups of that a day will start.
Is that like a chicken carcass or what would that be?
Yes. So the most common one is chicken carcasses, or you can use fish heads, or you can use lamb bones or beef bones, whatever you can get from your butcher, preferably organic. Because you want the most nourishment that you can possibly get from it. So preferably organic, but if you can't get that, any kind of bone broth is better than none. You can also get certain companies now have dehydrated bone broth, so that you can just put a spoonful of that into a cup of hot water and you're still getting the maximum nutrients out of it. So Google dehydrated bone broth. Gelatin is really good. Gelatin is something that you use for making jellies and that kind of things. You can get it at your supermarket. So gelatin is another form of collagen. Okay. So that's another way that we can add that into our diet.
I haven't had jelly in years. I always associated that with the kids.
Yes, and it's an easily digestible that's where when kids go to hospital, quite often you're given jelly.
Yeah, jelly and ice cream.
Yeah, but the jelly is because originally, before it became the sugar-laden sweet treat that it is now, gelatin with fruit juice